What is it about photography and road tripping that go hand in hand, and no more so than in America? How has the view of America changed for photographers since they first picked up their cameras and headed west? This is what we're going to find out today. But before we get into that, a quick word about today's fantastic sponsor, PicDrop. PicDrop is an online sharing and proofing solution for professional and amateur photographers alike. Its ease of use makes it an absolute no-brainer when wanting to share images for proofing with clients. All you do is upload the photographs, share a link, and your clients can look at the images, make notes, share their revisions, and give you feedback straight away, eliminating all of the old back and forth with emails. Be sure to get your free trial of PicDrop by clicking in the link in the description box below. My first experience of America was in October 2001. I jetted over to Tampa in Florida to go visit a friend, and I spent a month there kind of just doing some sightseeing and what have you. And that America was very different to the America that I built up in my head. And that's because as I was growing up in South Africa, our culture there was heavily influenced by American TV, American movies, and a lot of American art. So the idea that I had been shaped by the image. And what I saw was nothing like what I'd expected to. And I feel at the time there was a change going on in America that I was not aware of, but when we look at road trip photography specifically, we can see awesome photography that's really, really great, but also a change in the way that photographers have approached a subject. Although it is a hugely wide subject, America, you could just sum it up in a single photograph. And this is what I'm sort of looking at today. I have a fantastic book here called Photography in the American Road Trip. He says trying to put down a cup and look at a book at the same time, called The Open Road by David Campany. And I have to apologize, this book is, it was fairly affordable when I bought it, but it's kind of now not so much. So I'm sorry about that. It seems to be a common theme here on the channel. And one of the great things about this book is that it's divided into segments that are loosely based around periods in time. So we go from, like Walker Evans and Robert Frank through to a contemporary photographers who we're going to look at specifically now. But, then you go like John Meyerowitz and Stephen Shaw. Now, I'm going to skip over a little bit of the earlier work, so the Robert Franks and the Lee Friedlanders and stuff, because that's not really where my journey with America begins. My journey with America as a visual place begins somewhat around, let's say, to the late 70s, early 80s. And if I look at the photographs from that period, so I'm thinking specifically about not Stephen Shaw, because I think he's a little bit earlier, especially the work that's sort of shown in here, but Joel Sternfeld. Out of all the photographs in this book, Joel Sternfeld's feel the most familiar to me. And that's an interesting thing, because I'm looking here like there's a Wet n Wild play park in Orlando in September 1980. And if I look at that, that looks exactly like South Africa. Right, that everything seems to be the same, and obviously because it's shot on film and it's slightly older, it has a slightly nostalgic feel to it. Now, I have to be careful here because I don't really want to lean into nostalgia. These images are not about nostalgia, but more about how the way that photographers, I think, are viewing a country and how that shifted over time. So I look at this, there's a space shuttle here, there's a lady against a tract home. I think it's called sort of trailer park housing. And immediately what I'm kind of feeling about these is not a sort of a sense of optimism or anything like you would get in sort of maybe 1950s, 1960s imagery, but certainly a sense of like, here we are. Okay, we're kind of cool, it's all fine. And there's a specific image, the lady with the trailer park. She looks happy, right? She looks contented, she looks kind of cool, right? And that everything feels upright. And I think this is because the photographs themselves are showing community, they're showing a wideness, right? Generally, they're showing people either at play or in front of their housing, or their housing. That sounds very sterile way of putting it. They're like looking. There's a proudness about them. Okay, they're there, right? Now, admittedly, this is only one section of America. This is sort of thing, but everything in here looks like it is confident. That's definitely the word. And the photographer, I think, comes through that because there's nothing crazy going on about the images. There's no wonky angles and stuff. It is simply showing things as it is. Right? There's no wacky processing. There's nothing like that. There's occasionally some weird sort of juxtaposition, like there's a photograph here of some people looking over a dam, and there's a baby in a cot. I love that. But again, it's just a matter of fact. Like, here we are. It's just all good. And that countryside, that look, it feels familiar to me because that's what South Africa looked like when I moved over there. And that's kind of the vibe that I get. Now, if we kind of fast forward a little bit to that, that turn of the century, so the 2000s, when I'd come over to America. Now, this is obviously just after 2001. I mean, it was literally just after 2001. And there had been a shift. Oh, now, obviously, at the time, we don't notice these things because we lived through these events. But looking back, through the work of photographers working around then, there is a definite change in the style of image. Now, we're going into Alec Soth here. Immediately, what I see with Alec's work is a lot of, again, a matter-of-factness, but this time there's a subtle feeling of roughness around the edges. Like the lighter, warmer tones of the previous imagery have made way for cooler, more muted sort of lighting and feeling. And the people also feel a little bit more, I'm not going to say down at heel because that's a wrong word, but they feel, to me, I'm looking at them, it feels like they're a little bit more of a brokenness to them. Like they're kind of a weariness. Weariness is a great term. And again, in the buildings themselves, you feel a weariness as well, which is just insane. There's a photograph here of a building where there's quite clearly, there used to be some lights on the wall, sort of lights, some mirrors or frames on the wall, and there's an old print of a Ansel Adams photograph there. And that feels very sad. Everything here just feels broken. It's the expressions. The expressions on the people have changed. The lighting has changed. Everything feels a bit off. It feels a bit rubbishy. Now, I don't mean in terms of the quality of the photograph. I mean in terms of it's a broken kind of place. And I think what really gets to me when I look at that is that it is the color palette that does that. It's the same matter of fact as bang, stand there, take a picture. But whereas, previously there was an expansiveness, see everything, look at what we have, look at that, this is great. There's opportunity because of the space around the people. Here it feels more compressed, more sort of brought in. Now, if you're wanting to, evoke either of these feelings, think about the role that the light is playing, the role that the color palette is playing. The country itself, the countryside, the buildings, they haven't really changed, but the photographer's approach to it has changed. You never really saw this look, this approach, this feel prior to sort of the turn of the century. This feels like this is more of a 2000 and onwards kind of vibe. That there was a definite shift in the country. Now then we changed speed entirely, staying with the introspective feel. Staying with that, everything's a bit quiet, a bit sort of changed. And we move on to Todd Hido. Now, I like Todd Hido's work, and especially the imageries that he does of the buildings in Twilight, because they also, that's also evocative of America for me, because the suburb that I went to go stay in when I was in Tampa was all kind of 1960s, 1970s houses. So that feels like it sort of fits. That feels like I can imagine that's a touchstone. But when I look at Todd's work here, which is all roadside things, and they all feel impressionist. In fact, there's a quote here. It says, "I photograph like a documentarian, but I print like a painter." Right? I think that's that's a lovely expression. These images, they have a softness about them, right? So there's that atmosphere that we get from that soft, misty kind of light, but you can't always rely on mist. And driving through any place, and I've certainly experienced this. There's some snow images, which I love this look. I mean, he's done completely different take to images in the snow than I've seen. They have like I said, that painterly idea about them, but he's photographing them what feels like from inside the car. Now, if you think about it, like people say, well, why? You can't do that because you get the muck of the windscreen and all that kind of stuff. And he's done exactly that. I think it's an awesome, and I was about to use the word trick there, but yeah, maybe it's an awesome trick, right? It's kind of cool. And especially these two images, right? There's rain on the windscreen, there's light coming through, and that combination has just, I think, elevated these into a dream world of photography. I'm looking at these photographs, and a completely different approach to Alex Soth, where it's like that's all very like matter of fact, and look, it's a bit rough, and everybody looks kind of sad and depressed. This feels like, if you squinted, you could still maybe feel that optimism of everything sort of prior to the 80s, that 50s and 60s feel, that it's there, but it's just hidden behind this impression of America. And I'm going to use the word impression deliberately there, because these images remind me of impressionist paintings. Right, so now up until this point, we've been very down at heel and stuff like that. And now it's not the America that actually I experienced when I went over there. I experienced a fun time, because I was visiting a friend, and it was all kind of cool. We went to Key West, and we did lots of wicked things. And the photographs of the slightly, the areas that are a bit more rundown, of course they're going to have that feeling, right? But then you come across somebody like this. This is Ryan McGinley. And immediately on the page here, there's a quote that says, "I have absolutely no interest in creating depressing images." Okay, right? So we've talked about Alex's work and Todd's work and what have you, and I don't necessarily think that they're depressing images per se, but when I look at Ryan's work, immediately, right, I see a happy image. And the big difference is, can you see it? Can you see why this is a happy image? What is it in here that's different to the previous photographs? Right? I see the light, I see sunlight, I see afternoon sunlight, I see the warmth. Right? So that's a basic thing, but there's also a wideness. The photograph has gone back to that wider view that we were getting from, Josh. Not Josh. Okay, Joel. Sorry, Josh, because I did Josh just recently, the day before, and yeah, we got Joel. So it's Joel. Joel Sternfeld's image. That wideness, and I get the same feeling of expansiveness here. And it's not just about having a wide-angle lens or what have you. Because if I look at, there's another photograph, right, where there's this lady leaning over, drinking probably a milkshake or something like that from a styrofoam cup. Boo, right? In the back of a Bucky. Well, sorry, I say Bucky. In South Africa we call pickup trucks Bucky. And that light's great. There's a movement, so there's something going on. It's dynamic again. Whereas Alex Soth's images are all static. Right? Todd Hido's images are static. This has got some motion, some movement, and that brings about it actually a feeling of optimism, certainly from my perspective. And again, there's that golden light. It's an afternoon. These are scenes, we can recognize this. It makes us feel like it's an afternoon where people have been having fun, they've been doing things, right? They've gone down to the Dairy Queen or something in town, and they've got some, blizzards, flurries, whatever they are. And now they're zooting back. And anybody who's ever sat in the back of a bucky and experienced this kind of thing will know and feel that immediately. And if you haven't, then it's easy to get the feel because of that flowing around of the hair and stuff like that. It's just one of those photographs that on the face of it doesn't feel like it's anything special, but when you actually look at it, it conjures an emotion and a feeling within you that you just go, I miss those days. And that's where it's difficult, it's dangerous to think about nostalgia, I think, when you look at photographs like this. Because on the one hand, yes, it plays an important role, but on the other hand, it doesn't necessarily make the image better or more accomplished. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are about that, regarding nostalgia and things of that nature, and the role that they play in images. Now, as we've gone through this book, obviously this is 3 photographers who have photographed an America at the same time that I first experienced America. And my photographs in that period, they're all snapshots, really. There's nothing, I didn't go out there with an aim to take kind of amazing photographs. But what I wish that I had done, in fact, and I did do some of this, is that I did take pictures that sort of summed up a place, right? It was Florida, it was raining a lot and stuff like that. And PicDrop, which I've been using recently a lot for the cohorts and what have you, has a great feature where you can click this QR code here and instantly upload one of your images to that gallery. Now, I'm going to issue a challenge, right? We have this gallery, and I would like to see a photograph that you kind of feel would be like a road trippy kind of picture of where you live. Right, it could be something random. The rain coming down, kids playing there, somebody at the Dairy Queen, a car on the side of the road, something that is just taken around where you are. And one of the great things is, also on PicDrop, is that you can leave comments on other people's photographs. You can give a little thumbs up, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like social media, but without all the algorithmy nonsense of social media. It's just a wonderful way of sharing images in a private place, we can all enjoy. So please, upload an image, just anything. If it's something off your phone, it doesn't have to be like the most amazing thing, but something that just resonates with you about where you live. I'd be interested to see what we end up with, and we'll come revisit what we've got in a couple of weeks' time and sort of see. So anyway, so I have to say a huge thank you, for watching today. It's fantastic to be able to talk with you. I hopefully inspire you to think about your photography in a slightly different way, all those kind of things. And if you enjoy this video about road tripping and all that kind of stuff, then check out this video over here. Thanks again once again. Thanks again once again. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.